Hello everybody and welcome to my review for One Piece chapter 1052. Now this is my first review, so I decided to put up some One Piece Bounty Rush gameplay for the visuals. Unfortunately I'm not very good at the game, so you'll see me getting shit on for the most part. And I'll be playing as Yamato since she's pretty relevant to this chapter. With that being said, let's get right into it. So the chapter is titled New Morning and the cover story shows a worried Caesar clown. There's a little question mark next to Reiju, so I'm guessing that she noticed him. Now I'm actually very excited to see where this goes because this could lead to Caesar Clown and Judge working together. They're both incredibly evil and incredibly smart, so they would be quite the force to be reckoned with. I can't even begin to imagine all of the advanced evil technological shit that these two could make together. I guess they could also just tell him to fuck off and leave him on Whole Cake Island, but I don't see that happening. Anyways, enough with the cover story, let's get into the chapter itself. So we immediately cut over to the land of Marijois, so you already know that this chapter is going to be important. And it's basically the five elders in a state of intense anxiety for a number of reasons. First off, they now know that Luffy has awakened his devil fruit, which is known as the most ridiculous power in the world. They also know that Kaido and Big Mom have fallen and that it will be impossible to cover up. And they also mention how the timing couldn't be worse, so I'm assuming that has to do with whatever went down at the Reverie. To make things even worse for them, Momonosuke decided to keep the borders of Wano closed, so Wano is impenetrable at the moment. Needless to say, the five elders are in a nervous wreck right now, and because Momonosuke decided to keep the borders closed, Zunisha had no reason to stay in the seas around Wano, so he just kinda wandered away. And more power to him, he came, he dropped lore about Joy Boy, and then he left. Anyways, the elders continued discussing the situation in Wano, and one of them asks a member of CP0 if he's able to bring them Nico Robin. The CP0 member looks very nervous because of what just happened, but he still says yes. After that, we cut over to Wano and we see a conversation between X-Drake and Basil Hawkins. Both Hawkins and Drake look like they're in horrible condition. Hawkins then asks Drake if he was a marine dog this whole time, and X-Drake just decides to not tell him. Then Hawkins collapses on the floor and they start talking about that interaction they had a while back where Hawkins said that a certain someone had a 1% chance of survival. And we find out that the person he was referring to was actually himself. X-Drake wonders why he continued to fight on Kaido's side even though he knew he would lose, and Hawkins said that his pride wouldn't let him switch sides again since he already betrayed everyone. He saw how Kid and the others were willing to risk their lives by fighting against Kaido, and he's disgusted with himself for being a coward. And that basically explains why Hawkins did what he did, and as a result we see Hawkins die for his pride. Now I thought this was a very unexpected and beautifully poetic death. I've always had a soft spot for Basil Hawkins since he reminds me of a character from Yu-Gi-Oh, so it sucks to see him get killed off. But then again, he did end up betraying everyone, so it is what it is. Now there is a possibility that Hawkins isn't dead after all, but I have a feeling he really is dead since there isn't much more I think he can add to the story. But regardless, I thought it was a beautifully written death. Then we cut over to the Flower Capital and it's been 7 whole days since the raid ended. It's revealed that Momonosuke is throwing another festival for the citizens of Wano, so they're not taking their decorations down yet. After that, we see the children of Wano getting some proper education. They were getting taught misinformation in the schools before, but now they're all finding out how Komurasaki is actually Odin's daughter and whatnot. So yeah, it's great to see the education curriculum of Wano be so vastly improved, fuck yeah. Now on to the depressing part of the chapter. We see Kawamatsu, Kinemon, and Marco the Phoenix stoically gazing at the eternal graves in Ringo. They start talking about how they'll put Odin to rest there, surrounded by all of his closest allies, starting with Yasuye and ending with Ashura and Izo. These deaths are genuinely depressing, especially Izo's death. I really loved his character. The way he fought with his pistols was so fucking cool, and he was also just a man with a good heart. Of course, I'm also upset about Ashura's death, but man, Izo was an incredible character. Thankfully, there's a wholesome panel with Kawamatsu and Onimaru right after to help lighten the mood. There's also a nice brotherly bond moment between Marco and the Scabbards where they talk about how they're left behind once again without being able to say goodbye. Now on to the happy part of the chapter. Luffy and Zoro are finally awake. Of course, we see Luffy instantly yelling for meat while Zoro is yelling for booze. You know, standard stuff here. As a quick side note, Zoro looks fucking scary while screaming for booze. Like, Luffy is all smiles, but Zoro looks like he's about to fucking murder somebody. Then we get this beautiful panel where everyone is rejoicing to celebrate their recovery. You got Brook playing the violin in the background with Nekomamushi laughing alongside him while Luffy is devouring meat and Zoro is downing sake. It's just a jolly old time. Momonosuke then tells them that he's about to throw a huge banquet for them, and they look over with faces that are somehow angry and confused at the same time. Meanwhile, Yamato's hugging Luffy while Chopper's hugging hugging Zoro, and it's just adorable. But the reason why Luffy and Zoro were so confused is because they didn't know who the fuck Momonosuke was, because he's actually an adult now. Well, at least his body is. They quickly go from confused to impressed and start asking to smack the fuck out of him to see how strong his body truly is. This is when Momonosuke does his thing where he runs to Nami for protection, but instead of telling Luffy and Zoro to knock it off, she smacks the fuck out of Momonosuke. Honestly, I knew this was going to happen from the second I found out that Momonosuke was going to be aged up to an adult, but it's still hilarious to actually see it happen. After that, Luffy finds out that Yamato gave up eating and bathing until him and Zoro woke up as her vigil. So a vigil is essentially a custom in Wano where they give up something in order to get their prayers answered by the gods. So when Jinbei and Luffy hear about this, they thank her, and it was just a very sweet moment. Meanwhile, Zoro wonders why his body isn't dirty, and Hiyori flirtatiously tells him that she has been cleaning their bodies while they were unconscious. Then everyone decides to take a bath, and Yamato is bathing with the boys. As a result, this causes Sanji to have a massive nosebleed. I really hope he's doing okay. We also cut over to the women's bath, and this is around the time where I noticed that Robin is missing. Where the fuck is Nico Robin? She doesn't show up anywhere in this chapter, and it doesn't sit right with me. Now I think that she's just finding the road poneglyph and she'll return the next chapter with no consequences, but it's very eerie not seeing her, especially since the Gorosei told CP0 to capture her at the beginning of the chapter. I swear to God, if Robin gets captured in the next chapter and Oda decides to go on a month break, I will lose my shit. I will be in fucking shambles if that happens. Alright, I'm just gonna move on. So we see Frankie getting all of the ships prepared, and there's a wholesome panel with Beppo and Killer being impressed by General Frankie. But Kid says not to get too friendly with them since they can't afford to let their guards down once they go out to sea. Then out of nowhere, Scratchman Apu makes his grand entrance with a newspaper in his hand. We go on to find out that this newspaper has ridiculously important information on it, such as who the new emperors are and what the new bounties will be. Also, who would have thought that Scratchman Apu of all people would be the bearer of good news? Now, I still fucking hate the guy, but I'm not gonna lie, he can be pretty funny sometimes. I won't get ahead of myself, but it kinda reminds me of how I hated Caesar Clown at first, but I ended up appreciating him more and more as the story went on. And as a quick side note, he's being carried by one of the numbers, so I'm guessing that they're allies now. Now on to the final two panels of the chapter. We see a mysterious man flying around with what looks to be a flower which is attached to his back. He's talking to Akainu, and Akainu is pissed like he always is. The reason why Akainu is pissed is because the person flying with the flower is being very vague about where he is. However, the flower person says that he sees Wano just up ahead, and the flower person is none other than Ryokugyu. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but that's Admiral Greenbolt. End of chapter. I'm at a loss for words. This chapter was fucking crazy. I absolutely cannot wait to see what Greenbolt has to do in Wano. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Like I said, this is my first chapter review, so please let me know what I can do to improve for chapter reviews in the future. I just really wanted to talk about this chapter because it was truly incredible. Alrighty, thanks again, and I'll see you again in the next video.